Hello, hello, and welcome to the newest episode of Borderline Podcast Disorder by Levi Lupu. It's me, Levi Lupu, bringing you the second episode of this week. So, for everyone who's listening for the first time, thank you for choosing to listen to this podcast and this episode. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed chatting with Rami. And for anyone who's tuning in again to on or tuning in at or onto or anyway for anyone who's a returning listener, thank you for doing that also. um, this has been a pretty wild week, like it's been a bit difficult. The sleeping has gotten better, which is good, but on the other hand, I've still struggled a lot with actually with the cold. I had, well, I don't know if it was a cold. It felt very weird. It was like I felt very bad headaches, and then it was almost as if I had a warmth from the inside. Like if I were speaking, I could feel the hotness of my breath, and yeah, it was just weird. It was just such a strange feeling and such a strange and obviously I felt like I was getting like knocked out every single day for some reason. I didn't sleep well, and or if I even if I were in bed for a lot of time, I would still get up with like my legs felt like really sore, my calves especially, and my lower back. And you know take it that I try and like look after myself, the best I can. I stretch a lot. I The meditation has been going really well. I've done some silence meditation, but I also did some what do you call it, like the guided meditations. I've averaged about 15 minutes a day, which is nice. And then what I was going to say in regards to like my body, I try and like stretch a lot during the day. I tried a bit of yoga, especially because we changed the layout of the flat now. And although we still got a lot of work going on, we got a space that's slightly bigger, and it allows for me to stretch at will. And I've done that, but I still struggle a lot. I still, again, like my lower back hurts so much, and it's been difficult, but I spoke with my psychiatrist about at the beginning of the week, and we're looking good. We're looking like there is a lot of progress, and I've been writing quite a bit, and I feel like comedy is kind of keeping me sane, and so does this podcast. I've had to. Oh no, I had to, but I chose to focus on it a little bit more recently because I wanted to um, distract myself from everything that is going on with my in my personal life, in regards to like my day job and stuff like this. That's not going well, and it's still a huge struggle, which I still can't talk about just yet, but will do eventually, and there will be more clarity. However, as far as I can, or like from what I can say just for now, is that I've been struggling a lot, and I still am, and I found it helpful to focus on doing the podcast, focus on my comedy, focus on the writing, and we'll just see how that goes. Although I can't complain, I feel quite privileged to have been able to get some very good spots on some very good comedy nights from now until the end of the year. And then next year I am also going to perform in front of some very good promoters, and hopefully I'll make them laugh, and then that will get me into some more credible comedy clubs or comedy nights. But Oh, I just forgot to say that, and I want to say that I'm super grateful for this. I've managed to get to 10,000 followers on Instagram. So thank you, folks, for anyone who's following me there, but also for everyone who's listening to this podcast. We've reached 10,000 listeners since last year, since we've launched. So in just over a year and a week, I think, from the first episode, we've got 10,000 people to listen to this. Not many, not all of them obviously are not like active listeners. I guess some picked up at certain points, but still, it's huge, and it's it's crazy. I didn't want to use the word crazy. I want to use something else, but it kind of feels nice. Feels really nice. Feels again. I'm very grateful for everyone listening, and I'm very grateful for everyone who's been a guest for the past year, and everyone who is going to be a guest moving on, and everyone who's going to listen in the future. Because I don't know what I expected when I first started this, but I don't think it was this. Like I think yeah, I had some expectations of some kind. I kind of, I thought that I'd be able to reach out to some other people who are impacted by. At first I thought it would just be for BPD, but then I thought, this is for everyone that's struggling, or has someone in their life that's struggling with a personality disorder. And it already feels like it's gotten bigger than that. I'm really really grateful for everyone again, and I'm really appreciative of the messages that I get sent. And yeah, folks, thank you. And look, I hope I keep doing, or I hope I will improve on the work that I'm doing, so that you feel like this is giving more value than it is now. But I also feel like it's giving. I hope that it's giving enough, for you to want to tune in. And I think this is enough from me in regards to talking to you for now. And I'll just let you enjoy the episode I've recorded with Rami. And look, it's been interesting, because again, it's like a huge time difference. Is in America. We got some more not comedians, but we got some more personalities from the states that are going to record with me. And so, you know, you will see the trend eventually. But for now, yeah, this is the first time when we did that. We had to schedule, considering a fairly big hour like time difference. I think it's about 5 6 hours. And yeah, it was so cool. I didn't expect for me to even reply to my um invitation. And then he's been so nice about it, and he's been um, so brilliant. And because of the conversation, and because of the conversation that I had with Rami, actually he's the one who told me that Hani was in London. So the episode with Hani Lisbon from what, maybe like 2 weeks ago, was recorded on the back of this. And yeah, look, very good, very good things have happened already. So I hope that even more good things are going to happen once you listen to the actual conversation. And yeah, thank you, and enjoy. Okay, so hey Rami, how's it going?
What's going on?
How have you been? I know we've got like I think so far this is the biggest time difference that I've been recording in. So yeah, how's your morning?
Usually my morning consists of me sort of doing a little bit of order in my house. So, getting the laundry out, dropping the laundry off, making the bed, brushing the teeth. I call it points on the board. So we kind of get a little roll. You get points on the board, just make bed, clean fridge, take out trash, brush teeth, take a walk, mental health. Yeah.
That's good because I think it's something that I often struggle with, where everything, when I think about everything that I have to do through the day, it feels just so overwhelming that it sounds nice to just start with things that are achievable and like nearby, and then figure out what's up for the rest of the day. So now you're in New York, right?
Yeah, New York City,
And are you from New York?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay, so how did you end up living in New York?
So I was living in Israel right before the pandemic, and I came back to go on a tour, and then the whole world stopped, and I just didn't go back. I was living in LA from like 2011 to 2019, and moved to Israel, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it out here, and from there, I really felt as if LA was, going back was smart for the pandemic. We were getting a lot of benefits at that time, and it just felt like the thing for me to do. And then I was watching social media and everything kind of occurring in New York City as far as like being able to be an artist and what life could be as a musician performing in the street. And I didn't think that was possible in Los Angeles because people weren't outside. So New York seemed like a place to go. I always wanted to live in New York. And then I saw that it was really cheap. I got a really cheap opportunity to live in New York when New York is considerably expensive. And that was it. I just made the move. I made a jump and we drove across America, and that's it.
No way.
Yeah.
What? So, but then when did you decide to, like, because you said you were born in New Jersey and then you lived in Israel. So is that you like did you make Aliyah then, or were you
Well,
living in between?
um, I got some assistance of it. I've been born a citizen because my parents were a citizen.
Right.
So every one of my family is Israeli. They were all born there. My father was actually born in Romania.
No
They fled
way.
communism. Yeah, Transylvania. Yeah.
That's so cool, man. Did you ask him, or do you know a bit more about that, or do you just know that he's from
Yeah.
a part of Romania?
It was close to Bucharest, and he doesn't really talk much about. He doesn't really, didn't really like it. Obviously, it was, that's why they left. But my aunt talks about it more, and I'm not sure where are you from out there.
Oh, I'm from the north of Romania. I'm on the border with Ukraine.
Okay.
So yeah, my mom is from. So both my parents are from big like places that used to have a huge Jewish community before like 1930s.
Hmm.
One is Moldova. The other one is my mom's from Moldova. My dad's from Bukovina.
Cool. What's it called? Boo.
So Moldova. So my mom is from a place called Hush, which is near Vaslui,
Okay.
and then my dad is from Suceava, which again it's meant to be like a big. Well, he had like loads of like Jewish influences, but again, everything kind of like died down, unfortunately.
So, my family was in Israel, and then they came to America, and I was born here. So that was it. And we just spent our summers in Israel. And that's sort of my growing up. And I always wanted to live in Israel. I was like, I got to live in Israel, live in Israel, live in Israel. And that's what I did. So moved there. And that was sort of a
Fair.
thing
And
for
then
me
you were
to do.
saying about how you, because when did you start doing music in the first place, or how did it like, also how did it start? Were you like busking, or did you start?
No, just battle rapping like when I was a teenager, probably till I was like 2010. 2010 was was the year, and from there, you know, my last battle was like in front of Eminem before Eminem was coming out for like a big thing, and I don't know if I won or lost, but they quoted me in Billboard magazine, and I was like, "It's a pretty good way to go out," and I really wanted to just make music. I mean, making songs for me is the real joy of life because you could connect to everyone. And but now battle rap is definitely like making its comeback, and it's definitely its own thing. But that's how I kind of started rapping over beats, sort of like 8 Mile, and then I really just liked the competition at that time in my life, and I'm like, okay. And now I'm sort of like competing with myself. I feel like every day is, what can I do that's really exotic and cool to build notoriety in my craft. So yeah, but I guess battle rap and rapping and freestyling and all that was just a way to get all this stuff that's up here and in here out. So, I had friends that were really successful in competitions, and we just, at a certain point we just started all making songs, and then we realized that people were listening to music. And yeah, it's really nice.
And then how did you because again, like my understanding, or like the way I because I grew up in Romania, and I knew there was always like this sort of battle of like East versus West in America,
Hmm.
right? In regards to I think music, but like mostly like rap in general. But
Rap.
then what was it then like for like your influences? Then what you obviously with New Jersey being on the east side.
Yeah, but that was more so for like pop culture, like Snoop Dogg and Biggie Smalls and like Tupac and Biggie. Like that's just another level of rap, and we were just like underground kids.
Right, but then so that wasn't like a thing that
No.
you. Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
But
then
I
what
mean,
do
I'm
you?
sure internationally they're like East Coast, West Coast. It's yeah, but it didn't exist for us.
And then you were you able to like travel around the country, battling like other people, or were you
No,
pretty
for
much
me,
in?
it was just a local thing I did when it was like I did it when I just started, like just because there was no shows back then. We didn't even have studios. Like maybe you could record and get a studio, and it was such like a privilege to get into a studio. And I'm talking this is like 2000, 2001, 2002. And then I went, and when I started touring, I would say 2006 was like my first out of state show. 2007, I started doing like putting together tours. 2007. 2008 was my first real American tour, like all of America. And I've been to every state in America with music. So,
No way.
yeah, everyone.
And what were your like I guess highlights from that time? Like what was the coolest, like the things that you didn't imagine that you'd be able to do, and I guess you've done, or like yeah, what's the best memories that you um, still have, or like live yeah still live with?
I just remember going to Alaska and just driving 5 hours to Homer, Alaska from Anchorage with a friend, that I met through the internet that liked my music and brought me out there and got me paid. And yeah, I got paid to go to Alaska. I got a flight, I got money, and we were just going and traveling around and making little videos on the side of the road and just becoming, yeah, just being a person, like living my life. I remember just people visiting you and popping up in other cities. I remember like my girlfriend at the time like just appeared in like Minnesota, just like popped out, and I was like, oh my god, it's like so cool. And I got surprised. Yeah, like that's really fun on the road when you just run into old friends and surprises, and you just kind of have this road mentality. And like the road. There's a song by Murs called "The Road Is My Religion," and it's very much like you having faith and you trust in like the road gods, the tour stops, and we just understand this, and like you don't know how it's going to work out, but it always works out, and even if it doesn't work out, it works out, and that mentality is great. Like I really think those places of America, the Middle America, are some of the best people, some of the greatest experiences, and people just appreciate those that come out there. So you go to Alaska, you go to Oklahoma, you go to Montana, you go to Oregon, you go to North Dakota. These are some of like the best places to be. The Midwest, the middle of nowhere, Sioux Falls, Omaha. A lot of good memories from those places.
That's amazing because like I do stand up comedy, right? So I noticed that around the UK, I'd say I find a similar sort of approach when I go to places outside of London or outside of Manchester. It's actually the places that sometimes I have like the best time at, because everyone just feels like so much more, I don't know, like almost happier, and it's yeah, it just feels like they are almost, they are kind of like grateful, right? They are very happy to have people from elsewhere come around, and it just feels really cool. I understand. I understand the feeling. I was going to ask you, because obviously, like now you're doing, and the way I kind of I discovered you and your work was through social media, right? But then I imagine, because you were talking about how you met friends online and you got like paid to go to Alaska. How much different was it then than it is now? Or like how did you even like start to have like a social media presence in the first place?
I think back then, your music was playing on your page on MySpace. And like, so people, you would just add people and friends and other musicians and follow them. And you're just amassing people. And they're like, oh, this guy's cool. This guy's cool. And he's doing shows, he's taking pictures, posting some long, raw video. I think the first time I uploaded anything to YouTube or had something on YouTube was like 2006. And I just remember that sort of time. And I would always be so concerned about like $100 or $200 or 300. And it's just, you're really getting, it's like nothing. Right. And now I'm financially stable. So if I want to go somewhere and do something, I could do it and have fun and not, and actually do it in a nice time, like in a nice manner, I would say. So for instance, if someone doesn't have any money for you, it might almost be better for me now to go do it for free than to even ask for $100. Just be like, we don't need, and just we'll do something proper next time. And you kind of, because now I have faith and experience that always will work out, and so it's like it's fine because I know that if I go, I can sell my merchandise and get promotion and build relationships. And like, if you look about, if you do like politically, like how people travel, they, some people that go to these places where there's no one, they really come out and they really appreciate it, and then they build this momentum in these areas. And I just learned that. And like, you're kind of spreading the gospel or whatever that gospel may be, um, the Jewish gospel. Not and now you go and you do a documentary and just go around and film everywhere, and then people really really appreciate it. So if something happens in London and I start doing footage all around the UK, and I go there for free, and I just spend some money and do it, next thing you know, I have this big following now, there, because people are like, hey, I'm doing that right now with stuff in Amsterdam. I'm probably going to go to Amsterdam because I said some stuff happened out there, and I was like, I'm going to go film out there. And I got reached out to by so many people from Holland. So we a lot of our followings and people are dormant. They're dormant, as in like dormant things happening, but we got to go, bring them out of their shell. Um, so that's kind of uh, niche marketing, I guess you could say. If you start talking about Alaska a lot, all of a sudden, all my followers from, I didn't even know I would have any, but you'll find out. Yeah.
And 'cause now you were talking about how yeah, with everything that's happened in Amsterdam in last week, and even like a few nights ago again. So it's interesting to know, is it the first time you're going to be in Europe, or have you
I've been in Europe so many times. I toured Amsterdam. I played at all the big venues there. I performed in with Snoop Dogg in Amsterdam, and a lot of really famous stuff for me. Um, yeah, and I know a lot of these people out there for years, and you know, so I've been to these places. In Europe, I was touring Europe 10 years ago, 8 years
you
ago,
know
and
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 sorry, go on.
this is It was very similar to that back then. It's just that social media wasn't as advanced.
Have you been to England before?
Yep. I've been to England, I think in like 2009 and 2012. Um, have I been recently? No, I could probably just, get a ticket and go. That's the plan.
Yeah, I think
But
you should.
I was blocked from going there because I didn't have like a work visa. So like anytime I go now, I need to have a work visa. It's a
What,
pain.
even for like short stays?
Yeah, just because I'm working and promoting myself, and I got red flagged last time. So
No way.
yeah, sucks.
Yeah,
Sucks.
it sounds mind blowing because yeah, I don't know. I just think there would be a lot more ease, with things as such. I was going to ask you about how you were talking about how you were in you're in the States, and then you always knew that you would like to live in Israel at some point or for some time. But then, what was it like to or was it easy for you to transition from being like a creative, being a musician in the US to Israel, or was it kind of like a new beginning, or was it a bit of both? What was that like?
Um, well, being a musician in Israel is really tough because it takes forever to get paid. Being a musician in America is much easier. I think. What's the exact question?
Yeah, the exact question was whether you had to start almost from like scratch in Israel, or was it easy for you to
Well,
basically?
people appreciate those coming out, and I think the consensus in Israel is like, why would you come to Israel? But people in Israel don't understand the correlation between American and Israeli culture, and very liberal Israelis would still be shocked about how anti-Israel like America is in certain situations, right? So they so just sort of like there's multiple communities that are in Israel, and there's a huge Olim community, like immigrants, and that all speak English, and they're like fiending for English content out there. And the Israelis love it. Most people speak English completely, and they all enjoy English music, whether they speak it or not. And that is growing and growing, and just it's just something I always proud of myself in. Um, I'm importing Israeli artists, working with Israeli artists, making Hebrew music. You know, that's kind of it. I recorded a project out there that I haven't even released, which I should probably release. Yeah, this is the stuff that we're talking about.
And were you always so open, I guess, through your music about being Jewish, or is it something that's
I
built
was
up more through the
always
years?
talking about it in some way or another. Whether I said something like matzo balls or like like diamond encrusted master ball, like I mean, so much stuff, dude, that you're like, what is that? And always I was my original inspirations were this group called Nonfiction, and they were just like really thugged out, goony, like um, Jewish gangsters, sort of, and that's sort of like what I liked because when I was started to rap, I was coming from that, you know.
Right. And then what about when you were, I guess, growing up as well? Were you brought up like secular, or were you actually,
No,
like?
just Israeli traditional. We did all the holidays: Pesach, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, a little bit of Tu B'Shvat. We weren't doing like Tish B'Av stuff though.
No way. That sounds cool, because it's yeah, it just sounds amazing. Because but I think again, my understanding as well was that in I guess New Jersey as well, was it like a big community of Jewish people?
Where we were at, no, we were one of two Jewish families in my neighborhood, but like we had some Israeli friends, and these are my parents' lifelong friends. These are like family to us. So
So
Um,
Israel, when you're talking about like your family being from Israel, which cities or like which places in Israel?
my family's from a place called Kiryat Tivon. It's in the north. It's like 20 some minutes from Haifa, and that's it. I mean, that's where we're at.
And then when you travel, or even when you lived in Israel, were you based there, or were you in like a bigger city, or were you just traveling around with the music?
Was I based in? No, I was based in Tel Aviv in Jaffa. I like Jaffa because it's we call it Yafo. It's half Arab, half Jewish. It's very much like a lot of Palestinians there, a lot of Israelis. Just obviously, a lot of Olim. Sort of like I love a mixed city. I think it represents Israel of what it is, and I like to live through action. I'm very much a person of coexistence. Co-acceptance, equal right, all that stuff that people like in America and the rest of the world, I think. And I was like, this is what I like. And my parents but a lot of times it could have been proven wrong, um, and has been proven wrong by being there. But I think that was just cool. And also, but also Tivon, there's also, an Arab town right there. It's mixed, and that's just exactly what it is. And that's all of Israel's mixed, you know what I mean? But that specifically, Yafa, I mean, this is a cool area in general, and its center. So that's where I live.
I was going to ask you about the, especially with your new song out and the marathon running,
Oh, marathons in the rain. Yeah.
marathons in the rain. Were you always like I don't know, like an athlete or like a sporty type of
Yeah.
person?
Well, I was a wrestler,
No way. What
and
kind?
I was a wrestler. Yep. And in 2020, I started running. Um, this girl that I went out with, she was like, "Yo, you could just run. You could run a marathon tomorrow." And I'm like, "Really?" And I'm like, "All right, And then like 5, 6 weeks later, I'm like, "I did a marathon. I'm gonna do it." And she's like, "Oh my god, congratulations!" And then I did that marathon a year and a half later because of COVID. It was right before COVID, and then they postponed it. Obviously, the next year it wasn't in March, but then they postponed it to 2021. So I guess it was almost like I did it in 2020 of March, then 20, yeah. So it was essentially like 20 months later. It was in November. So it was literally 20 months later. And then I did another one, and then I did another one, and then I did another one. And I was like I'm doing 2 to 3 a year. But I feel this year I want to do even more. I'm like, oh, I want to get back out there.
That's amazing because
I love running. I think it's one of the last places where you could get a lot of applause for physical action. And that is such an amazing feeling when you get older, when people are like cheering you on, for like random strangers. It's really cool. I mean, I
and
guess in street performing, you could get that going. I mean, in performing, you get it, but it's for a physical performance.
but then also I was going to say that the atmosphere combined with the even the way you were like making content while running the because which one was the marathon that you run last, the one that I've seen most recently, so because we were filming in November, so which one's was it a New York marathon or?
Yeah, New York.
Yeah, so I think it was just amazing, the energy that you had. I think if I try to run, I struggle a lot.
You could do
but
it, man. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing to do. Just in general, it's crazy to do, but you can do it.
But how did you because when you talk about like wrestling, actually, what type of wrestling was it that you said that you did?
Olympic and collegiate wrestling.
No way, I did Olympic wrestling as well.
I mean, I wasn't obviously in the Olympics.
No, neither was I. Don't worry. I mean, yeah. I also had the terrible experience as a 13-year-old to go there and not have anyone in my category to fight against. Um, so that was great for my self esteem, but it's all good now. I'm over it.
I'm over it. I love it.
But yeah, so now you were talking about because it was something that really sparked my curiosity, like seeing through your story. You were talking about like being, what was it, how many years did you say that you were sober?
20.
20. That is amazing, because I mean I'm 2 years sober, so
It's
I'm
amazing.
trying.
And you're going to like 12-step stuff? Is that your thing?
No, I think I haven't, because I've started around the same time. I do a lot of I connect and I go to some support groups for people with BPD, and because the impulsiveness and addiction is something that we discuss there, or something that we cover in that group. That's pretty much where I'm at, and that takes, I guess, I'm putting enough energy in there to feel like I'm staying accountable. What about you?
Um, dude, I'm going to sorry about that. I'm going to, 12 step. I've been doing 12-step stuff for a long time. Therapy is like an extra added. I'm definitely someone from anxiety, depression, have my experience with SSRIs. I don't know much about BPD, but I do know that I suffer from I don't want to do shit. I don't deserve anything. I don't I'm not good enough. I live in fear. And, not only that, but like I deserve to stay in these situations. And then, that transfers over into romance, it transfers into finance. And I'm trying to say that doesn't matter. Give myself a chance, Um, so it has a little bit of a rhyme there. But what I mean by finance would mean being like, I want to buy a house, but I also want to, hop the subway and not spend $2.90. So I'll give somebody $1 to enter through to like a crackhead that's like trying to make money. And by opening it up, when the police aren't around, and you're like, so like one thing I do is like I always pay. I don't steal that $2 because in my mind it's like how could so I'm living like who I'm not thinking about dollars. We're trying to think big, right? Um, you like I also noticed like I'm like a holder, so I'm like afraid to sell my stock and then buy some new and then make mistakes. It's like I don't know what to do. I just got it. Um, there when it comes to like romance, you're just like, oh, if you're in a bad situation, like this is the only situation. You're like don't have the courage to like get up and leave and be like, yeah, all right, no worries. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna work for me. And then so I'll try something else. And by doing that, you stick up for yourself and whatever. But like sometimes you're addicted to this thing. And so, this fear and that could be really paralyzing for people with depression, for any sort of disorder. All these things are happening. They happen to regular people too, but it's a lot easier for them to process it and be like, okay, that's that. It take me a lot of work to work on stuff like that. So something bad happens, now I could pretty much process through it.
But it sounds amazing to know that you, if you've been like 20 years sober, then you must have gotten sober very like young. So it's just crazy to hear about how you've managed to do this while building up your music career. And you were talking about how, what, because then that means in 2004 you would have gone sober, and then in 2006 you were talking about how things it's like when you said that you started traveling around.
Yeah.
So but
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
sorry, go
Being
on.
sober was definitely like I was going to jail. So for me, that was why I got sober. Um, and that is just, that was just my life. So whatever else that is, um, that's why I did it. You know what I mean? I wanted to I wanted to become sober. So there was, the cost of me not being sober was much higher because I would have done a lot more prison time, and I was already facing time, and I already did time before my last. And then so for me, it was like, oh, no brainer. And then I said, oh, this is easier. Life is easier doing this, and I could totally see I would not be able to do anything, and that's okay. So you accept, losses. I think a big problem with mental health is that people applaud those who like get off medicine or something, and you're like, you wouldn't applaud someone and be like, oh, if you have HIV, congratulations, you're off medicine. Like, maybe, I don't know, maybe you're supposed to keep taking certain shit until you die, and then that's that. And maybe that's a bad analogy because I don't know where we are with that medically. But you don't want a cancer person to be like, I'm gonna beat cancer by myself, and you know what I mean. You're like, you don't want a person that's like bipolar to be like, I beat bipolar by myself. I'm like, did you? What'd you do? Um, there are certain things that like you don't give diabetic doesn't get off his insulin shots, for instance. They take in, there's no shame in it, right? But there's like a huge level of shame around mental health, because we're supposed to be bigger and better than everybody. But like
Well,
my
this is the
life
thing, is
was,
I sorry, go on.
but I don't understand who came up with that, right? So we're like forbidden to talk about it. That's why people are like, you're so proud. How's your mental health? Now mental health is becoming cooler to talk about, to the point where people that don't have any mental health issues are talking about mental health. But like, it is weird to the point where, there's a lot of other issues that come with addiction, and you discover that while being sober that you have a lot of other issues, that it wasn't just the alcohol, and that you were using alcohol to kind of solve all your maybe mental health issues. So, and that's probably what we have in common, is that like maybe drinking was like, oh, maybe you have a lot of other things that you were covering up by getting high and selling drugs, and these are the things, and we don't get to express that in the Jewish world, I would say. But when I mean the Jewish world, I mean like the community at hand that's very like involved in like politics. But you could see there's a lot of mental health issues involved with like political, drive, and these things that make you, get angry with other people and their points of view. That shit did not exist like years ago because the internet didn't exist. So it's like we adapt with all this. And for me to even have an opinion on anything is a privilege because I'm sober, and I get to formulate my own opinions because I'm sober. So before, I didn't have no opinions on shit. I didn't have an opinion on millions. I was trying to get a bag and of anything, and a bag of money and whatever. And there was no phone. I don't have recollection of me for years with no photos, because we were like, no photos, no photos, no everything. Now it's all like picture everything, picture of my food, my store, my this, that.
That's so true. And I was going to say about the um, medication. Although I'm on the same boat as you, where I don't know how far we've gone with the like HIV medication, but I think it's been at some points throughout my time when I was telling people about the medication that I am on at the moment, or the one that was in the past, and it was like, oh, you gotta like stop doing it. I was like, why? Um, and I used to. Sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, people don't understand medication, so they already have a formulated opinion about medication because they were, I don't know, have a bad relationship with their father that should have been on medicine or whatever. And they're like, this is how I feel about all this stuff because this, and I'll never date anyone else who was this because I dated one time 11 years ago, and this, and this person was on this medication and they turned out to be like this, or this person was sober and he turned out to be this. So once you know like a 12-step program is usually an anonymous program. So anonymous means you don't tell people, like, to some degree, you're violating your anonymity. It's always a hard word to say. So as you navigate it, and especially in the worlds where people don't talk about it, and you being so comfortable to talk about it, for me, the shame dies in the light of exposure. So if I talk about certain things, then who cares, And the reality is, we're just in a society that if people aren't your doctor or your immediately close friends or educated, and also you're in like a situation where like, oh, I take Prozac, I take this, I take Wellbutrin, or any medicine. I'm just going down a list of things I take Lexapro, I take um, Zoloft, and if people don't understand these, oh, that's it's you have to come with like answering a whole new slew of questions to people that don't know anything and want to judge you. So it's harder for us to discuss it because there's no platform where I guess where people aren't seeking you out. It's like to volunteer information on that might not be the best idea for everybody, you know? Yeah. I'm
That's
sure
very
it's been
true.
difficult for you, right? Because you're like, BPD is like looked at way worse than I would say on a scale of like what's cool to have. Like, oh, you have anxiety, depression. Oh, that's cool. Bipolar, like holy shit. BPD, I'm like, well, that guy's really great. Like that guy's fucked up. Like I wouldn't want to be associated. You know,
Yeah, that's true. And well, it
narcissist.
depends.
That's another one. Narcissism. Like I don't know. People use that like anything.
I have heard that before. The only weird thing is that I didn't know much about it before I got diagnosed. At first, I actually thought, and I've been prematurely diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And then after that, they were like, oh, actually, it's not bipolar, it's BPD. And the main reason why is because with bipolar disorder, they were saying that when you have those like mood changes, they can last between 1 to 3 days, while with BPD it can fluctuate in a matter of hours. So in the same day you can go from high to low mood and then back to high mood for no reason.
What's
And
your
yeah,
favorite
then
mood?
my favorite, I don't know, I feel like I think just it's very rare, but I think the actual when I have like complete sanity, that's the best. When I can just, like I can understand my thoughts. I don't feel like, I don't know, because sometimes I had this, and I struggle with since I was struggled with intrusive thoughts since I was 13. And now sometimes I get some like, oh, I say the train is coming, and I was like, hey, I could just jump, and then I'm like, no. And listening to that thought, I'm like, huh. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that's funny. Like that's weird. Like, why is this a thought that occurs, or like, how is this a thing that actually happens? But coming back to what you were saying about the, uh, I guess the perception attached to it, I didn't know much about it. So I only found out as I was studying about it more once I got diagnosed, and once I was in hospital as well doing some treatment, that I heard about the bad reputation that BPD has. And then I remembered that in Criminal Minds, every serial killer had BPD,
Mm,
according to the people writing the script. And I was like,
right. It's like a prerequisite to be a serial murderer is to have BPD.
yeah, so you see, that to me was just, again, at that time. And I remember sometimes at the beginning I was like, oh my god, what if I genuinely had this fear that I will end up being a serial killer a few like a
Right.
year or so ago.
Have you ever?
With
Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a fight?
Yeah, when I was I think the last time when I was like 16 or 17.
16 or 17?
Yeah.
Wow. And it's isn't it funny that's the last time you've been in a fight, yet you're like, oh, hello?
Yeah.
Oh, you're here. Okay, I'm looking at something else. Um, I was like looking at you fell off the screen, and I seen just a picture of me. Well, the reason why I asked is because you're like this irrational fear of being a baby killer or like a serial killer, or whatever, um, has no basis in fact. That's like somebody who like is attracted to a woman, but then will think he's like a pedophile, like they'll just have like an irrational thought, and that's like an intrusive thought, and people don't understand what that's like. But that all that stuff exists, and that's crazy. And then there's like a community of people out there that's like, I also would like go around and then suddenly think that someone's gonna like blow my brains out, like right behind me. It was like like an irrational fear, and I would know it's an irrational fear. But sometimes getting a lot of high stress, boom, and then I could imagine someone like shooting me, which is so crazy to even say publicly. But these are just a thing of an intrusive thoughts, you know? It's like very much for artists, you know, for freestyle improv artists, that freestyle like me that are really good with improv. But that would be a thing, or maybe getting like falling off of a building. I don't know. You know, those are just
I used
intrusive
to,
thoughts.
yeah,
Have you had
yeah,
stuff like that before?
I did, yeah, I did. I had the, I remember once so during the pandemic, I was seeing this girl, and the way we broke up is because basically I woke up at 5 a.m. at her place, because of a nightmare that I had, which somehow ended up with me killing my like, 'cause I was adopted, so I was like in this dream I was killing this person who I think was my biological father, and then I just walked off a cliff. And because it just happened that in my dream it was, if one was close to the other, like I killed him, and then the cliff was right there, and then I woke up from that, and I was just like having those like sweats. Told my no, my this girl that I was dating at the time was like, "Hey, what's wrong? What's happening with you?" And I was just so embarrassed about everything that I just walked out of her house. And
Damn.
then the next thought was, "Oh, that's it. The relationship is over. Don't worry about it." I ignored her for maybe like a week or two, and then obviously when I eventually went like, "Oh, okay, that's not rational at all." I then texted her, but it was too late. Anyway, the relationship wasn't working for many other reasons, but yeah, that's how it ended. And again, that's like probably the main one. But yeah, many times I do feel like it. I think in here as well, sometimes near where I live, or like even in central London, people go, "Oh, you gotta be careful with, like people trying to like rob you or mug you or stuff like that."
Right.
And I sometimes kind of take it. Yeah, I kind of like, I wouldn't mind if it happens. Like a year ago, I was going home from a gig, and then someone called me, said like, "Oi, big man, turn around. Is this guy holding a knife at me?" And I told him to fuck off, and he did. He just
Oh,
looked
and
at me and
someone
was like,
tried to rob you with a knife.
"Yeah." And then my thought was like, I was just like, "Oh, fuck off." And then he just looks at me and he goes like, "Oh, for fuck's sake," and he just walks off.
Wow.
And yeah, but the thing is, I think now about it, and I'm like, oh, that wasn't very, like, a very healthy approach, to speaking with someone who holds a knife. You never know how that could have gone. But in that at that moment, I was like, I don't care. Like, I genuinely, I remember like looked at him, looked at the knife. I was like, and what? And now, after I came home and told my partner, I did get a bit of. I don't know what's the American word of it, but in England they call it bollocking. So she told me off, big time.
Right, because it's not worth it.
Yeah, which is fair enough.
Yeah. Right, and I feel you, and you're so crazy, and you're not even crazy, but I get it. You were just like, ah, fuck it.
Yeah, again, at the time I was like, well, what? I don't care. Like, whatever, even if the worst happens from this, it's fine. I'm happy. If anything, I felt like I didn't do well at that gig. I kind of bombed anyway. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, might as well just take me now.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, look, it's been yeah, it's challenging for sure. And look, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. um I'm aware of the time.
Oh no, it's all good. I'm happy to schmooze a little bit. But let me ask you this:
Yeah,
when it's almost like and this is something I don't know if people with BPD do or other people, they sort of imagine these like unlikely situations that will never happen or could happen. So, your parents are they're like, watch your back. There's people out there, they're crazy. And that's sort of like what media does. Media watching the news over and over again, watching bad news about like anti-Semitic attacks, does it aggravate your condition? So, meaning that you stay, I assume that you take a medication to help you balance your ups and downs.
Yes, I
but
take. Sorry, go on.
but like watching the news over and over and over again, or scrolling and refreshing the internet, does that aggravate you, like aggravate your condition to go up and down? Because definitely does for me. And then you're almost thinking like, oh man, what if I was the person saving everyone in a terror attack and, running by, or what would I do if, and you run through those sort of scenarios as sort of like, that are very equal to you attacking, like, you being the serial killer, which is obviously not true.
Yes, it does actually, and I think, for example, I remember in right after October 7, when I started again, because I feel like in England, and anti-Semitism felt like it was on the rise for the past 2 years before October 7, right? So you kind of like, I think, my last year in Manchester, where I used to live before I came to London, and then the first year in London definitely felt like things are escalating. And then they got much worse. And I think even after after watching like footage from Amsterdam, I definitely felt for a bit where I think, especially because I support Maccabi Tel Aviv. Like I follow them, and I was, if I were in a better financial situation, I actually wanted to go to Amsterdam and watch them, because I feel like that's the closest they would have come to England.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it kind of made me think that, hey, you know what? I think a part of me was like, I wish I was there.
Right, because I would have done something.
Yeah, yeah, because I feel like, like this, and or like I remember when I've seen the, I don't know like how up to date you are with the anti-Semitism in the United Kingdom, but there were loads of like protesters outside a Jewish center in West London a couple of weeks ago, and I saw this video of like this old lady crying, which reminded me a lot of my mom. Because like she had the same haircut as my mom and the glasses and stuff, and I almost felt like I wished I was there. I don't know what would have happened, and I think even with when I post stuff on social media or when I look through stuff, I have to put my phone down at times and just like lock the screen and stay away for 10-15 minutes to gather my thoughts before I say post, comment, or whatever I would do with something. But yeah, the thoughts that you asked about, yeah, they definitely come. But I'm like, I kind of wish I was there.
The crazy thing is that we have the ability to live in reality here today and make a difference, yet we choose to live in some fantasy.
That's also true.
And for me, that's a big reason why I started making videos, is that like I don't have to watch the news that they repeat over and over again like my parents. I could go make my own news, and that's the stuff that I want to see. Like a big thing in my music video, making a video on the train, or making a video during the marathon, or making a video about all the presidential candidates and making a rap song about it. I was like, I don't have to subscribe to the low level things that other people are doing. I could honestly figure out how to make my own stuff. And I don't like watching the news. I want to make my own news. So if I could bring people together, I'm going to do it instead of thinking about fighting, because I know I'm not unique in that. I know everyone out there without a face on their Instagram page is talking trash, and they're thinking they're going to change the world, but like they're obviously not going to, because they have no face attached to what they're doing. It's sort of like propaganda. So I just choose to live in reality, because a big part of my addiction was just living in a fantasy world and living in a fantasy addiction where it's like, what if it was this or what if it was that? And you're like, yo, that's all part of my fear. And I'm really trying to, expose my own darkness and dark things about me with light. And light for me is living in reality, taking care of myself to the best of my ability, making sure I'm capable to live in reality. And yeah, man. And that's a big thing about running a marathon. You have to be present while you're doing it. You can't not be there while you're running, You can't send an assistant to do it.
And the one thing that I wanted to ask you was about, how did you come, like, when were you always thinking in such a way that, because I see your content, I see what you're doing, and you are, almost, again, you're trying to see the good in things and the better, and you're trying to not only, I don't know. Yeah, not only make, again, just it almost feels like every time I see your content, it's like, oh, you're making like my day better. You're like you're pushing for that sort of trajectory where people are like enlightened. And is that something that you always like, is something that you always thought about, and was that like a part of your thinking when you were thinking about, like, or when you were creating, or is it something that's happened more recently,
What's happened more while I've been creating?
where you're basically like trying to expose like good things and like happiness, and you're trying to show the, I guess, the positivity, and you're trying to show that there are also like good things
Well,
going on, and I
also,
think.
I'm not trying to, I hold the same beliefs as a lot of people. Like, I don't think peace is possible. Like, I mean, I hold those on many given days, right? And but like, I choose to just go about the way I conduct myself as making the effort and seeing if anyone's willing to reciprocate it versus saying, "See, and resharing other news." I was like, "Well, I know that I could stick. I know I could feel better about my decisions based on my own experience, and that's how I live my life. I try to live through my own shared experience because you can't tell me whether it's the truth or not. It's what I experienced.
Hmm, that sounds very
Mhm.
healthy.
It's just the best way to do it because like a lot of people are like try to change their parents and they'll be like, why don't you vote this way? Why don't you vote that way? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you get therapy? And you're like, no, like my dad, like he's not interested in that. Like that's how he was raised, how he's comfortable, and you got to respect it. I mean, changing is tough. Not everyone's down to do that, and people are okay with the way life is. So for me, I really love doing it this way. Because that's just where I'm at, and it's a great way to connect with people, and people appreciate it because I realize there's a need for people like us that are willing to share about these things, tell people how it is and that goes for the mental health issues amongst, a lot of the Jewish world. Um, and also just life as someone sober, life as a rapper, and all those things mixed together, being Israeli and going to create your own experience because that's what my parents have. I can't tell them, oh, everyone's peaceful. Like they're like, no, it's not. We fought in wars. They're not going to tell me. They're going to be like, did you forget? Like that's not what happened to me. So that's their experience. And like when you go into recovery, they say there's strength, there's hope, and there's experience, strength, and hope. They don't like you can't leave without you won't have strength without the experience, you won't have hope without the experience, and you have to make decisions,
That's true.
and it's okay to make the wrong one sometime.
Yeah, I think, again, it's just the way it is. Yeah, I think it's like one of those things. If you can't, if you were to always do everything right, then it means that you're not, allowing you're not exposing yourself to everything that's around you, or you're not allowing yourself to actually experience everything that's around you, and you just keep on repeating the same thing over and over again. Otherwise, you will make mistakes.
Yeah.
But look, I enjoyed so much spending this hour with you.
Been
It's
sick.
been brilliant. And I was going to say that I wish and I hope to see you in the UK at some point, or even in mainland Europe. I'll keep an eye and see when you're coming over. And I would love to meet your even like to meet you and also your dad. You know, I'd love to meet a fellow
Yeah, I
ex
know. You guys got to talk
Romanian.
some Romanian with each other.
I had no idea, you know, and I'm so stoked. It's so nice when I hear about and like I meet loads of people who have like loads of Jewish people who have Romanian roots, especially lots of people from America, and it's quite nice. I really yeah, I kind of wish my parents migrated. I think it would have been better for their mental health and maybe mine. Who knows if it's uh, biological? But look, yeah, it's been amazing. Now, before we go, I just want to ask, where are you most active? Where do people see your work? So basically, what's your social media handle and stuff like that?
I am most active with Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you know, all the things, but Instagram seems to be the most every day. Even my mom's like, we're just doing this. We're just doing Instagram. So it is Kosha Dillz, KOSHA DILLZ.
Perfect.
And koshadillsworld.com. And if you're interested in booking anything, I got a contact form on my website, koshadillsworld.com. KOSHADILLZWORLD.com. And yeah, man, it could be on your podcast or play a show or comedy or whatever. We could do it. We could
Perfect.
work
Thank you
it
so
out.
much. And thank you so much. And I'd love to, yeah, we'll stay in touch. I'd love to
You got it, brother.
do this
Thanks so
again.
much for
Thank you,
having
bro.
me on.
Thank you.
So, what do you think? Was it good? Was it what you hoped for? Was it better? I hope it wasn't worse. But look, I think the conversation was good. You know, I'm sorry for a couple. We had a couple of sound problems throughout. We had the internet connection. It was tough, you know. But I hope you put that aside and you just listen to what was discussed. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. You know, and I'm very grateful for Rami to take the time in the first place to do this. I'm very grateful for you for listening to this. And look, I think you're gonna hear back from me at the beginning of next week. Um, the next episode is with someone who I've recorded with in person in my apartment in London. Um, but yeah, you'll hear from me then. And in the meantime, you know the drill. From me, Pickle and Sarma. We hope you have a nice weekend, a good week ahead of you, and stay skillful. Bye for now.